Hey everyone, and welcome to the Atomic Cinema Experiment. I am Peter, and joining me, as always, is Tara.
Greetings, citizens. That was very enthusiastic. Hello, everybody.
Was it? Was that more enthusiastic?
Yeah.
Maybe we should do a fake version of the first 15 minutes, every time, and then it's always in take two after 15 minutes of warm up that I sound just perfect, just right
Yeah,
to
that's
start
what
the show.
it was. It was just all the practice.
Yeah, we had
The
a
practice round that we did.
We had a slight technical hiccup, and we realised about 15 minutes into the recording that Tara's audio levels were far too low and unusable, and therefore this is take two. So if the start of this feels like, I don't know, less bantery than usual, it's because we already had all the jokes we made about everything before. We did it already.
Yep.
But yes,
I now know who the Amell brothers are.
Yes, I explained who Stephen and Robbie Amell were, who are in this movie we're about to talk about. But this is a science fiction movie podcast. We talk about sci-fi movies every week. And this episode, we're going to talk about Code 8, which is a newish movie that just came out in December. So we're going to talk about that. We'll start spoiler-free, of course. Before we get to the movie review, though, I will inform you that at the end of this episode, we do have a bonus Mystery Science Theater 3000 section, where we're going to talk about the episode focused on the final sacrifice.
Pew, 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 pew.
Oh, sorry. Final Sacrifice, eh?
Yes, it is from the land of my people, the motherland.
Canada land. So you can get it at the end, and I'm specifically pointing that out because I neglected to mention it at the start of the War of the Worlds, the original War of the Worlds 1953 episode. I forgot to mention there was going to be a bonus section at the end of that one, so it's a surprise at the end of that if you found it. If you didn't, then go back and listen to the end of it after the outro stuff, because there's a whole extra 15-20 minutes talking about Revenge of the Creature. But here we are. So that's at the end of the show. We're going to talk about Final Sacrifice, but we're going to talk about Code 8. Code 8 is the movie in question. So let's just see how succinctly I can do this description of the movie on round two. So Code 8 is a science fiction film set in an alternate version of our world where people have superpowers. They started appearing sometime early in the 20th century, and they were initially used as part of industry. They were used in factories. They were used to do, instead of having, say, a tractor lift something up or whatever, they'd have a person with super strength do it. This is all kind of explained in the opening credit sequence. There's a montage of news reports and stuff, but things change for the worse once they get replaced with robots for all these jobs. They're kind of disenfranchised, and of course the movie's heavily allegorical. It's doing the X-Men thing. It's using the superpowered people as a metaphor for actual minorities, and that's what the movie does. So the main plot of the movie is our main character Connor, played by Robbie Amell, who's got a sick mother who can't control her frost powers anymore. He's got electric powers, and he ends up falling in with some bad people to make some money. It's the falling in with a life of crime to help the loved ones. So you've got the heart of gold, but you're doing something bad to achieve your noble goal. You've seen it a million times before in that sense. Maybe not with superpowers, but you've seen it before. I mentioned Breaking Bad in the first description. This is Breaking Bad with superpowers. Not really, but
Just a sprinkle of X-Men.
Just a sprinkle of X-Men, yes.
And a whole lot of other movies. There's a lot of other movies in this.
A whole lot of other movies in this. A lot of Neil Blomkamp. There's police robots that made me think of Neil Blomkamp quite a bit.
Like Elysium. Not a movie I'm looking forward to watching again, but we'll have to.
Oh, we will. And then we get
a little bit of Chappie in the design, a little bit of Mother from the Netflix movie.
Yeah.
I'm there. Yeah.
Yeah, we get to watch Chappie as well at some point. That's going to be fun.
Oh boy.
Chappie. Chappie. Do you know what I love that we said all the same points we did the first time, but we did it in about a third of the time. It was just boom, 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 boom.
Interrupting you with stupid jokes. So just get through this so we can get to the part where we left off.
Boom, 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 boom. Okay, so that's the gist of the plot. That's the gist of the story. I will ask Tara the question, although I will reiterate something I said on take one, which is that before Tara watched this movie, she sent me a message saying, "Time to watch this garbage." That was the message that was sent. Just to put you in the frame of mind of the, I don't know, preconceived notion that Tara might have had before she started the film.
Look, you said like a week ago, our next movie is going to be Code 8. And I said, what the hell is that? And I looked at the poster and went, oh, it looks like trash. It looks like that Maze Runner garbage genre that I just don't care about. And, you know, I do kind of have superhero fatigue, but it's not so much for like the big Marvel films, because I find I still enjoy those every time I go. It's more for like these types of films. Mm-hmm. You know, the Chosen One style has abilities, and I don't know. I don't really like any of them.
to be fair, this is not a Chosen One movie. There's no one chosen for anything. There's no destinies or anything like that.
There is somebody who has an ability that's like clearly better than other people. Like, you know.
Yeah, I wouldn't call that chosen. I'd call that like any martial arts movie where there's that one guy who's just that good. Like, you know, he's better than everyone else.
Well, this is not like a practice skill, though. This is something that they just like, they have a gift, and it makes them special over other people.
All right, okay.
Like even other people who have similar abilities. All
right then. Well, I'll ask the question, Tara. How did you feel about Code 8? And I'll just pretend I don't know the answer.
Yeah, try to act surprised. It's fine.
It's fine.
It's definitely watchable. It's not really my style of film. This whole like grounded superhero, young adult trying to be cool, but I don't know. Like, it's okay. I did like a lot of the really tense action scenes, and I thought they were really well directed actually. But the slower parts and the more like family stuff, like they didn't really work for me. But you know, there's some good and there's some not so good, but overall I would say the movie is watchable if it's your type of thing, and if you like these actors because of some TV show you watch, then you'll probably like it.
Because of some TV show you watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of concur. It's okay. It's okay. I agree that some of the more actiony scenes are better directed. The rest of it falls a bit flat, and I think it's because it's a mixture of things. I think it's not that the actors are bad, because I think Stephen Amell has a decent amount of charisma. Although I do think
he's all right. I liked for the most part I liked a lot of the actors. Some of them not so much, but yeah, I think the acting is fine. I just don't think it's very well written.
No, that's what I was going to say. The script doesn't do enough with the characters to make the characters that complex or interesting. Connor, the main character played by Robbie Amell, he's just kind of a series of tropes. He never really feels like he belongs in the movie. He feels like a pretty boy CW actor who's been slotted into a movie that really should... I mean, this is the sort of role that, I don't know, like... I mean, maybe not now because he's much older, but this is the sort of thing that a young Tom Hardy should be playing or something like that, not...
Yeah, a lot of these people, like, they're painting this world as, like, gritty and underground and, I don't know, like, dirty, this subculture of crime, and I just don't buy that these really beautiful young people are who grew up in that world at all.
It almost like it wants to feel like Dread. It wants the tone of Dread.
There are some scenes where I'm like, guys, trying to do Dread. Like I said, there's a lot of movies in this movie.
Yeah, and it's an Indiegogo movie. That was one of the things we were joking about in the first take, is that we both kind of like, when we got to the end, we're like, wait a minute, the movie's already over. There's like 15 minutes left. Why is there so many?
There's so many credits.
Yeah.
Like I genuinely like went through. I never stay through the credits for a film, but I went through them because I thought there's got to be something else in this. But I was wrong. There's no end credit scene, so don't bother.
Yeah, it's because it was Indiegogo. There's basically just a wall of names of people who donated to the movie at the end, and that's why the credits are so long. Because the actual movie's over in about 90 minutes, but there's like another 15 or so of credits. So that is why. But I mean, yeah, I hate to say this because it feels like such an easy thing to say because it's got the Amells in it, but the cast do feel very like CW, and it's one of the problems I actually have with the CW shows as well. I mean, as a DC Comics fan watching those CW shows, although I'm about to quit them all for the record. Well, not all of them. I'm going to keep watching Legends because Legends is fun, but the rest of them I'm quitting. But like, it has that same. Those have that same problem where I'm watching, like, say, The Flash, and season 1 was okay. It was definitely better than what it's become now. But like, it does have that problem of like everyone being this young pretty person, and like, not that I think Barry Allen should be an ugly person, but I don't think him of as being, when the show started he was 22. I remember when they cast him and I went, he's younger than me. Barry Allen shouldn't be younger than me. I'm not that old yet. Like, and this was like 5-6 years ago. Maybe now he can be younger than me, but even then, like, I still think of him as someone in his mid-30s.
Oh, The Flash?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I don't really watch or read comics and watch those shows, so I'm not really invested in it. But I did watch the first season of The Flash. I thought it was pretty decent, but I just didn't keep going because I've heard that it goes downhill from there.
Oh, you have no idea.
And I have zero desire to watch any, like, I don't know, any of those shows. I don't. Supergirl or Arrow, any of those. Like I said, I kind of have superhero fatigue for anything except for what comes out on the big screen. Like, I still get excited for Marvel. I will go see the new Wonder Woman. Those big ones I'll go see, but anything else, I'm just kind of like, I don't know. It's not exciting anymore. It's almost like watching a fantasy, or like what I assume that movie Bright was. I didn't watch it because it's not my style, but where it's just people who are wizards living among us.
I saw Bright, unfortunately. It was it was not good. For anyone who's a fan of our reviews of the DC CW shows, and they are ending soon, or they have already ended by the time this goes out, I will just give you one last little go around of every meta will die. Chris Klein plays a villain in The Flash season 5, and it was the most hilariously badly acted thing I maybe have ever seen.
I'm sure the fans loved that.
Barring
whatever that was.
Yes, barring Tommy Wiseau, maybe. Like, that's the only person. But even then, I'd love to see Chris Klein and Tommy Wiseau in a movie together. It'd be perfect. But anyway, and obviously Stephen Amell is not that young. I'm not saying that he's too young for this. Just to make that clear, I'm saying that, like, I'm seeing a bunch of pretty people who feel like TV actors, who feel like, he's even dressed.
They don't feel like they've struggled their whole life to like.
They all look in shape.
They feel like they look like they drink muscle milk and go for their tans, and they don't look like they're from this world of, I don't know, sleaze and underground drugs, and I just don't buy it. I will say
that the movie, I do feel the restraint of the movie's budget, in that for a lot of the movie it just looks like the normal world, and there's not necessarily a lot of like stuff with visual effects, but I will commend that the visual effects, when they do show up, are actually pretty good.
Fine. Yeah, I think they look good. I even like the like little lightning effects stuff look pretty good. The robots, which I thought would be an easy tell, look good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're clearly just people with a mask on, but the movement looked good too. And
I think the when you say mask, I'm pretty sure it was like a mask of green screen though, and the actual head is CG. But like, no, I mean, obviously, they made them humanoid so they could do that. But
right, I mean, they did look good. I agree. The special effects were, I'll say, seamless. Nothing stood out to me at all.
No, I agree with that.
And I like the action. It's just the character work is just not there for me. I don't really buy the world,
which is a shame
that they're setting up.
Because when it comes to movies of this budget, this kind of size, that's the stuff that can make it excel. That's the stuff, if they nail it, it outlives its budget, outlives its audience reach, and it becomes something special. And there's examples of that in the past that we could bring up, but because that's the stuff that fails.
There's something about, like, when somebody writes about what it's like to be gangster that you just don't really buy it, like, this is what I imagine a drug lord would act like, or would say, or he would have his thugs, and that kind of world, like, he would hang out in a strip club, and it sounds like a fantasy that, like, I don't know, a kid would have about what it would be like to be hard, but it's not real.
I know I know you like the actor from Far Cry 5. His character in this is one of the worst things about it.
It's just poorly written. I love Greg Brake.
And why does it?
Far Cry 5.
And why does
He's amazing.
he has this really horrible like hair? It's probably a wig. Like it looks really bad.
No, that's his hair. He had it in Far Cry 5 also.
Okay. But they've intentionally got it kind of like messy and kind of strawed down his face, and he looks like this greasy douche like all the time. He's like the kingpin dude, who's in charge of the crew that Stephen Amell runs. Garrett, his name is. So the acting's fine. Like everyone is kind of serviceable. It's kind of on that level where it's kind of dull and unexciting, but none of them are bad. They all, I mean, I think Stephen Amell, the one thing I'll give Stephen Amell is that he has presence. Even if I do feel like in points in this movie, he is just doing his Oliver Queen. And I say that because there's scenes from Arrow where he is like training people and stuff, and there's scenes in this when he's training Connor and he's yelling at him and saying, "Focus, do this," and all I'm hearing is Oliver Queen because he's just doing the same role again.
Yeah, I have no background with that show, so I mean it was fine. It was just a montage that felt a little I don't know, like, we're gonna do a montage.
Do you know,
like, it's hard not to notice,
I actually
like, okay, here's the training montage, let's just get through it. It's super tropey.
There's a bit at the end of the movie that I think, like, the actual idea of the character decision that gets made at the end of the movie could have landed really well in a better written script. Like, there's a big decision that the main character has to make at the end, which I think, and they play it up as if it's this big moment and this moment we're going to care about, and I don't think we do because the movie's just kind of okay. But I can see that moment, because that's the one thing that kind of separates it essentially. Is that decision at the end. Everything up until that point is just, beat for beat every version of the story that's ever been told, usually without superpowers, but this type of story, and that's the one thing at the end that changes it a little bit. Unfortunately, it's okay. It's just an okay movie, and obviously it's
watchable.
Its allegory, of course, is anything but subtle. I think that was in take one, where Tyler got really sarcastic about that.
Sorry, can't use that footage.
Can't, no. Maybe I can just cut out that one little bit and boost your audio and just edit it in. Just cut to your sarcasm. Good fun. Otherwise, you'll be delighted to hear that we're actually caught up to everything we said the last time. We're basically back where we were.
Now it's all surprise.
It's all new, even for us. Although you were complaining about the bad guy's slave.
I love the main female as an actress.
Whoa. Didn't love. Tara called her a mouth breather. That's what happened.
She's a mouth breather.
Take one. For the audio,
I noticed the mouth breathing.
For the audio listeners, Tara was doing a little impression there of what mouth breathing looks like.
I don't know. I just would be like, "Come on, close your mouth." Yeah, she's a bit of a mouth breather, and she's well, it's more of just her, like, she's supposed to be, under the influence of something, but she just kind of comes off as just not very good. Like, her dialogue delivery is a little monotone, and it just needs a little bit more of, I believe I am under the influence of something.
I think it's a little weird, or it feels a little underdeveloped, because they've got their own made-up drug in this world called Psych. And I thought it was a little bit weird. You're right, Foxy? I thought it was a little bit weird that it never really did that much with it, beyond it just being like a MacGuffin at one point, beyond it just being something they want to like steal.
A form of currency. Yeah. Whatever.
I assumed that something was going to come from it, that like, oh, maybe like it does something to people with powers, or it does something for non-powered people, or it, like it would become a device in some way.
Well, it does. They explain that.
No, but I mean like something that would help them later on, like, oh, if you take this drug, it'll your powers will be enhanced, or you'll
No.
I don't know.
Nope. It did look an awful lot like the Bliss, though, which was the drug that was used in Far Cry 5 by the same actor.
Oh, Joe, I hated actually. I hated that when we first get introduced to Garrett and he's like looking for an electric, right? Because obviously different people have different powers, and all of the powered people like gather up for day work and they hope to get picked up by people. And it's usually construction workers who just hire them for the day to come in and do construction work. And we see examples of that earlier on. And then Garrett comes in and he's like, "Hey, I did electric," and he's like, "At least a class 2." And then later on, he's like, when he's explaining it to the other bad guy, he's like, "I mean, I said a class 2, he's at least a class 5. And I'm like, hold on. What are all these class numbers? How are these measured? Like, they're throwing these numbers out here to try and like make it sound like all this is like really well categorized. And I'm just like, I don't know. This feels like you just pull out your ass.
I think underdeveloped, the word was a good choice of words. I think a lot of this is underdeveloped.
Yes. In fact, one thing I didn't mention, because I think this was if this was already mentioned in this and it wasn't in take 1 and I'm just misremembering this, then I apologize for repeating it, but this has actually already been developed as a TV show, and much like Fast Color, which we did a few months ago, this is already getting developed, but although in this case it's actually going to keep the actors, at least some of them, so presumably this will actually be essentially the pilot for this TV show. It kind of does, because especially the way part of it ends, it kind of felt like, oh, maybe more of the interesting stuff could really come after this, which is always a good sign.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we have a cop character who's kind of like tracing the various crimes that are going on, and that's basically your main characters for the most part. There's no one else really. There's a couple of people who are always there with.
I mean, the mom, I guess, is kind of a main character. She's there a lot. She goes away for a little while.
Yeah, she's more of a MacGuffin than she is a character, to be honest.
Yeah. She's
there to be the thing that he needs to save, but that's about it. Like this.
There's a couple of ragtag crew members.
Yes, with their own powers. Yes, one's got melty powers and one's got super strength. Garrett, Stephen Amell's character, we didn't mention his power. He's got. At first, I thought it was telekinesis, but then later on, it felt more like he actually had like a sort of wind effect at one point. There was like a force field.
It seems like he just has the force. Right? He can like call objects to him. He can push people, move things.
And now it sounds even more lame when you describe it that way. So yeah.
Except there's no lightsaber. Lame.
Nah, I'll give the movie a point for that. No lightsabers. 1 point. +1.
Well, it's gotten at least a 1 out of 10 from Peter then.
Oh dear. So that's basically the movie. I don't know if there's anything else to talk about spoiler free. So I feel like at this point we will give you the spoiler warning and go to spoilers. But before we start the spoiler section, I will tell you about our Patreon producers. So thank you to David Short, Alison M. Fordyce, Cindy Palacios, and Tyler Hess. That means that they are Patreon producers, and that means that they are patrons at $20 or above. But you don't have to give us $20. Tara, why don't you tell everyone about Patreon?
Yeah, if you want to support us because you like what we do, you can check out our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/mildfuzztv, and donating as little as $1 per month will get you bonus episodes of the Ace. You can check out our reviews of the what's it called? We're working on a saga. It's been a while since we've done it, so I don't remember the name, but Peter will tell me in a minute.
Transfers.
We're working through the Transfer saga, so clearly that needs to be the next one we do. We did Judge Dredd from 95. We did Time Cop. If any of those sound good, check out the Patreon page. It's only $1 to get them. Check it out.
And somehow Wing Commander was a regular episode, not a Patreon bonus episode. I don't know how that happened, but somehow it did. So there's a whole back catalogue. There's like 7 bonus episodes, 8 bonus episodes now, whatever it is. I'm not sure how many there is, but this is it. So $1 per month will do that. $5 will get you access to the vote once every month. Every month there's a vote for 4 movies.
Make sure we never do another Wing Commander.
No,
that was a movie.
Yeah, it was, and they like to make us hurt for some reason. Whenever we give them a bad option in the fort, they always pick the bad one. The bastards. Anyway, thanks, patrons. Thank you, patrons. Love you loads. So, full spoilers then for Code 8. So, like I say, the movie does a decent job explaining the world during the opening credits. It's a reasonable summary of the world. And we're introduced to Connor, who has a job interview, and he's scared to tick the "Are you a powered individual?" box because he'll be discriminated against. And we see that he goes to the construction work, and we see him and all of his buddies using their powers. You know, they're throwing cinder blocks at each other. They're soldering things with their bare hands, and so on and so on. And then the cops show up, and we get the line up and like, hey, there's reports that some of you are using your powers. So line up, look up at the drone, and the drone sort of like identifies who they all are, and yada yada yada. And one guy tries to run because there's a warrant on him. So we see this is where we get introduced to the robots that fall from the drones. Because we say drones, you think it's quite small. It's big enough that there's like a human-sized pair of robots that drop from it.
It looks like a drone, like what you would have a camera attached to, but they're massive.
Yeah. In fact, even later on, there's an even bigger one because there's like a big one that spawns more of these drones later on. So we see them get shot, and Connor almost kind of gets into a fight with the cops. He's like, "Hey, is this really necessary? This is too much." Yada yada yada. So yeah, I mean, all of this at the start is just to show just how rough life is for Connor and his mum. They're trying to pay bills. He can't get work. When he does get work, he's being harassed and told not to use his powers. All this stuff, and his mum's boss is a dick to her as well, yelling at her because she accidentally freezes things sometimes. And Connor doesn't like that very much.
And she's got like frostbite hands now. She seems to be struggling with her powers. She can't quite hide them as well. Yeah,
we see her kind of like running like hot water on her hands to try and like thaw them essentially, which is.
She's got Elsa powers.
Which is funny because at the end of the movie she basically says, "Let it go." Yeah, so obviously when Garrett rolls up in his truck and says, "Hey, big payday, I need a electric level 2 or higher," and and a little hesitant, but Connor gets up and says, "Okay." So they take him to like a place that they're stealing chemicals to help make the drug, basically, and they need him there to short out an electric fence and get them inside. And then after that, it just kind of helps with lugging things around. But it does a thing where the guard shows up and kind of tries to hold them up, and we see the telekinetic powers and so on to like save them. But we see Connor basically saying we don't have to kill him or whatever, and they had no intention to, like, no, we'll just lock you in this box until people come and get you out, like, whatever. But which I guess the point here is to show that this crew, while they are more villainous, aren't necessarily completely evil either. They're not just offing people left and right for no reason.
They don't want to kill anybody. They're just trying to get a leg up in the world.
Yes. But of course, he wants to use Connor again because he was helpful and useful, and he senses more power in him.
Certain something.
Yeah.
Spark about him.
He's got those midichlorians out. So he's like, "Hey, there's a big job coming. I need to know we can trust you." And Connor goes with him again, and after some breakfast, he takes some. There's like a little bit of comedy here where like the guy with super strength can't speak, so he has a sign language. And there's some, I think, attempts at comedy where he says like "F off" or something like that, and Garrett's like, "Oh, he said good luck," and like, I don't know, it felt kind of flat for me. I was like, okay, I get it. You're trying to make me like these people.
Yeah.
Not quite enough.
The scene in like the diners or the wherever they are, like an IHOP, because they're always eating breakfast. It's okay. It's kind of a weird atmosphere to have a character like just shoveling in food while they're trying to like talk about a plan and get excited for it. It seems like an interesting character quirk to do, but I don't know why it just doesn't really land with me.
Yeah.
It seems a little try hard it's just a weird atmosphere.
Would you describe the movie in general as try hard?
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah, that's because it's around here we get the training montage where he tries to train Connor how to use his abilities. So he floats light bulbs around him, and he has to try and light them all up and stuff.
Yes.
And then this is mixed in with him going with him to small jobs to basically rough people up for the money they owe and things like that.
Uh-huh.
Which is okay.
Yeah, it's okay. It's a little like Karate Kid, I guess. But I just don't care. I don't know. I'm not into it at this point.
Around. Yeah, I remember.
Hey, you got it right.
Yeah, I remember. But the thing for me is that it felt a little bit silly at one point where he was trying to he was trying to overload all the light bulbs.
Yeah, he was doing 8 light bulbs at once, and he was really concentrating, kind of bent over, and
it looked like he was trying to squeeze out a turd. Let's be honest, what it looked like.
Yeah, he was all clenched up. His face is red.
Yep.
Guy needs more fiber.
So, from there, it's okay, we've got this job, and I actually thought at this point the movie was going to be a heist movie, and it was all going to be about building up to the bank job, but the bank job happens 10 minutes later. It's just not there's more to it, there's much more to it after that. And they end up, with almost no money from the bank, because the boss man who sent them on this job, because they're in desperate for money because there's a cartel or something that are going to kill them if they don't pay up. But they
boss man's got a boss too.
Yeah,
so.
There's a hierarchy. Yes, but because the collection of the bank where they come and empty out the vault happens on 4 o'clock on a Friday, and they try and rob it on a Saturday or whatever it is, they get. I mean, they get a lot of money. I mean, they get tens of thousands.
Did you see the movie The Town?
I did, yes.
That scene where he's calming her down and talking to her kindly so that she can open up the vault. That was straight out of The Town, right?
I don't remember it that well. I remember the only thing I remember about The Town is that the love interest didn't know what he was like, and he was conflicted between his life of crime and the love interest.
Sure, yeah.
That's what I remember.
Actually, pretty good movie, I thought, but that scene in particular, I remember that scene from The Town. And when I was watching this, I'm like, wait, they're just doing that scene, the same thing.
So hold on. I mean, let's just rack these up here so far, right? We got X-Men. We have the various works of Neil Blomkamp. The Town. What was the one you just said?
The Town?
The Town, okay. No, but after that, you said something else. Yeah.
Chappie. I said Chappie.
Oh, you said Chappie, okay. All right, so yeah, there was Neil Blomkamp. X-Men, The Town, a little bit of Dread.
A little bit of Dread. Yeah, I Am Mother, maybe, for the design. Although that might not be intentional.
I think that's just, I think that's recent enough that I don't think they would have been inspired by that.
Sure.
Because they were probably, this was probably already shot by the time we saw I Am Mother.
Probably. Yeah. I mean, I think there's some more. I'm sure there's more.
There'll be more.
There's a lot of movies in here.
I'm racking up what we've got so far, and that's where we are. That's where we are. We're at four. I mean, I say 4 movies. I mean, the Blomkamp kind of covers 3 different movies, and they all feel they're in here a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
So it's right around this time where after the bank robbery happens and they don't get enough, they're all kind of shitting themselves about what to do, and the cops who are investigating the various crimes, both robberies, are starting to sort of close in, and they very, very quickly get to him because he's the only electric in the area who's high level enough, plus he has a motive for doing this. So because
it's like a video game.
I know. He's a level 7. Oh,
he's a level 7 electric paladin.
So they bring him in and question him, and honestly, this is kind of a key scene for me to show why the movie doesn't necessarily go beyond just being okay. Is that the scene where they interrogate him just isn't that exciting or interesting or dramatic.
Yeah, they do a good cop bad cop thing. Except they're actually good cops and bad cops. They're not playing. Yeah,
because the bad cop is just a complete, prejudiced dickhead, and then the good cop is actually a reasonable person who we find out later has got a daughter who has superpowers, and that's why he maybe has a which,
It's
by
a
the way,
soft spot for him. Yeah.
yeah, because at one point the partner says to him like, "Oh, you're letting her cloud your judgment," and I thought he meant like, "Oh, he's got a new girlfriend or something like that who's got powers," right? When it's your little like daughter, like that is a dick thing to say. You're letting the fact that your child is one of these people cloud you. Of course he is. It's his daughter.
Yeah. Yeah. That would have been kind of an interesting storyline if they do a spin-off show or whatever. I hope they do more with that kind of stuff, because I don't like X-Men 3. It's a bad movie, but I really love the opening with Archangel when he's a kid and trying to like saw off his own wings and stuff, and he's crying because his dad's like a politician against the mutants or whatever. That scene always really got to me. It was really well done. I like those kind of stories. Give me more of that.
Okay.
Okay. The real stakes, the real parent and child. I mean, we sort of have that here. And I don't hate the relationship between the mom and our lead guy, Connor's character here. But yeah, this part I thought was that storyline I thought was intriguing in this movie, but not the interrogation scene.
Yeah, no, the interrogation just wasn't that exciting.
Yeah. And especially because we just came from a scene that I don't know if we mentioned it, but I actually did really like the bank heist scene. I thought that was, and the car chase scenes that we've had a couple of them. I thought they were both really good.
Oh yeah, there's one after the first robbery where the van's red, but they've actually got it covered in something. So when they get into a tunnel or something like that, they peel off all the red stuff, so it's like white now. And
yeah, I thought that was kind of good.
Okay, it's smart. It's smart.
Yeah, and I mean, I felt the tension. I was a little white knuckled. Yeah, it was good. I like those scenes.
So basically, Connor's mom gets worse, goes to hospital, she collapses, she finds out that he's doing something criminal. And it's funny because there's a fine line here with making this kind of thing work where you're doing like a sort of standard like old-fashioned plot, right? In this case it's because the whole thing here is that your father was killed because he was doing criminal stuff, and I don't want you to be like him, which is why I've made sure you're never like him, and now you're going to turn at him anyway. And like, you've seen this done a ton of times, right? And that's not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, one of the things that I always say when talking about superpowered characters or aliens or whatever. In fact, there's a great I can't remember which comic book writer said this about Superman, but like, if you have a story with Superman where like some alien relatives are visiting, it doesn't matter that they're alien relatives, it's still just a story about relatives visiting, and that's why it's relatable. And forgive me for not remembering what writer said that, but it's a great quote, and and it's kind of true about a lot of like stuff like this where you've got superpowered stuff or sci-fi stuff. Like, the core plot is essentially going to be a plot that, because there's no new plots left, right? The broad strokes have always been done before, right? There's never escaping that, really. Something always boils down to some core idea that we because there's not really that many of them. And so I don't want to critique it and say, oh, it's just this thing we've seen done before, but I guess the real critique here is that it's just this thing that we've done before, but without anything to make it interesting or new or exciting or anything that makes it feel like it's its own.
Yeah,
it's going through the motions a little bit.
Yeah, it doesn't. Well, there is kind of an interesting aspect being an American, where his mom gets sick and has to go to the hospital, and they can't afford hospital bills. And that sort of makes it more relevant for today, where it's just the cost of surgery. Like, do we choose to make someone healthy and have crippling debt, or do we just die peacefully, or miserably, I should say, and not go to the hospital and leave the dead and die obviously too soon? So that part was kind of like, okay, you can do something there with that more, but it didn't really matter that she had superpowers, I guess.
No, I guess it was just the idea that the illness was also related to the powers, so therefore it makes it feel...
She had a tumor.
Oh, true, yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
okay, maybe there's a little bit of Logan in here. So she had a tumor that was causing her for her brain to like use her powers when she didn't want to. And there's a danger. She's endangering other people around her because she has no control of it. Kind of like Patrick Stewart and Logan. A little bit of Logan. Add that to the list.
Okay. I mean, one could argue that should just fall under the broad X-Men blanket, but that's specifically that movie, so I'll give you it.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically Connor gets this idea, let's steal back all the drugs, because for some reason, and this feels like it's just purely so that they know when this is happening, but for some reason when the cops sees this psych drug, they always like make a deal of saying, hey, every Friday we go and burn it all so that none of it can be used or taken back. So they know that they've got a deadline to retrieve everything that was seized by the cops, which kind of started all this in the first place. So it's like, hey, let's do a heist on the truck that transports, because I guess like an armored truck that takes it from the police station to whatever place, incendiary compound or something, I don't know, that takes the stuff. So it becomes this new heist where they've got this plan to sort of like blockade the truck. Connor will disable the robots,
zap things,
and they'll get the drug that'll be more than enough to solve everything. There's kind of a character thing here where like it's implied that if Garrett hadn't tried to make a power play, because Garrett makes this thing where he's been kind of working for the main douchebag for so long, and he's like, hey, if we pull this off, I'm a partner, I don't work for you anymore, we're equals. And it's kind of implied that if he hadn't done that, then Garrett wouldn't betray him here, because at the end of the heist, Garrett's men not only shoot the cops in cold blood, but then try to kill all them too, and they kill the sort of two that we don't know as well, and leave the two main characters alive. Always convenient, but so like there's an inkling of an idea there, I suppose. I don't think enough time spent on it though to really, hey cattail. There's not enough time spent on it to really kind of make it feel all that impactful. I do think the moment where they shoot the cops is well done. I think that actually feels quite like, oh hey, so that's a shock, and it feels quite dark, because even like Garrett and the others are kind of shocked by this and didn't want to do that. Like there was no reason for it.
They were never supposed to kill anybody. It was supposed to be done like they kill robots because they're robots.
Yeah,
robots don't matter.
Yeah, but until they're sentient, and then there's a whole debate to have, but they are in this. Yeah, we'll see. You think robots?
Oh, sorry, Google. I know you can hear me.
Good to know Tara's on the cold, no, robots' lives don't matter, the parade.
I'm sure they'll make a movie about it soon. Anyway, then you're right, the scene was pretty good. I like the turn that happens with sorry, my cats. I have to throw them away real quick. Okay. I did like the scene. I thought the turn was a surprise, and like, oh, okay, things are happening. I guess maybe because I like Greg Bragg so much from Far Cry 5, I am rooting for his character to not be worthless or the worst. But of course he is, and yeah, it's all right. I like this scene. Sorry, my cat was distracting me.
Yeah, I think the problem is the conclusion after this, where basically after essentially being offered this earlier on, Connor goes to the cop and says, "Hey, let's work together and take the bad guy down, and you'll get all the drugs back, and we can finally put an end to all this." And so the ending is basically the cops show up, and it lures the bad guy into like the back room where both Garrett and Connor are there to like fight him. And that's kind of it. Like, I think it's one of these things where it feels really small, and that's probably because of the budget. Like, it feels like such a kind of a just like really simple ending that doesn't really have that much weight to it. One thing we've not mentioned, a couple of things we've not mentioned, we need to talk about the lady, and we also have to talk about the bodyguard, because I actually do think it's cool that he's got a bodyguard who's bulletproof. That actually makes a whole lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense to me. So that's kind of neat.
And he seems to be sick. He's got some kind of like, I don't know if it's like lung cancer or whatever. He coughs a lot.
Not the bodyguard, the Far Cry dude.
Yes, yeah, Far Cry guy.
Main bad guy.
Joseph Seed.
There you go. But yeah, so the reason why Connor's doing all this at the end, what the payment he wants for doing all this, the heist in the first place, was because the girl that Far Cry guy kind of has as a slave is actually a healer. She has healing superpowers, and that's you know what we said, his illness. Like, she comes over and heals him every so often. But you know, so he finds that out. She heals like a cut he has at one point on his arm, and this is revealed. And the sad part is that I do think there's some interesting ideas here. I think at one point she says to him, like, whenever anyone finds out what I can do, all of a sudden that's all I am to them, is what I can do. And that makes sense to me. Like, if you think about it, if you knew someone and it turned out they could heal anything, like, you would just automatically want to use that person every single time anything bad happened to you or anyone. They would be defined by that ability, and you would never think of them in any other way. And you probably would think that way about them. Like, it felt like a really sort of stark truth that it makes sense. Even for a good person, they would still think of her that way.
Sure.
So that's a neat idea. I like you say, the character's not that interesting. But one of the big things, though, is that Garrett being a little bit more villainous at the end here, after they kill the bad guys, like, hey, you came for her to save your mother, because, you know, at this point his mother's lying in a hospital bed, like, you know, barely awake, and it's like, so take her. So he kind of forcibly takes her. She doesn't want to go. She doesn't want to help his mother.
And they've sort of had a connection, like, throughout the film too. Like, you think that, you know, that she's there against her will. She's only there because Far Cry guy has her dad or something in, like, debt to him. So that's really why she's there. She's trying to pay off debts for her father. And but, you know, they have a bit of a bond, and I think you're thinking might be romantic, or it might lead to something where he's going to save her.
I will say this, I appreciate that there is no love interest in this movie. There's no romance at all, which I actually really like, so fair play on that sense.
Yeah, I thought maybe it could go there, but it doesn't. You know, it all seems to be just platonic.
Yeah, so we find out around here, actually, just before he forces her to come with, that she actually takes on the pain and the injury of the person she's just saved. Yeah,
she says it's not that simple.
Yeah.
And
I mean, maybe not entirely, but at least temporarily she'll have that pain. It seems like it probably goes away fairly quickly, but the idea that if she tries to save one with a tumor who's dying, like, she's never done that before, and that might kill her. So the big moral choice at the end of the movie is that he forces her into the hospital room and says, you need to do it, and she starts doing it, and she starts to look really sick as she's taking they're healing his mother, and halfway through he has to make the moral choice to tell her to stop, because he can't live with himself for, like, making her kill herself basically to do this. And it kind of goes back to something. There's a conversation with his mother earlier on where she's kind of ashamed of him for, like, you know, doing what he's doing, and how he has to be better than that, and how, she doesn't want him to compromise his morals, and so it's kind of that inspires him to stop her here. And this, like, I kind of help me feel that this moment should be amazing. This moment should be the linchpin of the whole movie. They're
filming it like it's supposed to be. It's got epic build up, and the music's playing, and you're like, eh.
And I think it's just not only just this, but the final shot of the movie, the final scene, is the girl going to prison and visiting her dad, and the final shot of the movie is her and her dad smiling at each other because they're happy, and that's what we cut to credits on. It doesn't cut to credits on something with Connor or something with Garrett. There's some Garrett stuff.
No, it's about her. Like, she's the story here.
And the sad part is I don't think they actually spent enough time and made me care enough about her to make this final moment feel like it was.
Yeah, it's not really earned, is it?
Yeah, I just felt like, well, I don't know, I didn't really attach to her all that much, and it's a shame because she is the linchpin of the moral choice for Connor in the scene in the hospital, and she's also this final moment. So they really wanted us to care about him, or care about her rather. They really wanted us to care. Yeah,
a little bit of a fail, but I mean, it's not bad. It's not like a bad watch or anything. It's still okay. Like, you can see what they were trying to go for. Maybe it would work in like a TV format, like where you have more time to spend with these characters and really get to know their backstory a bit more, invest in them a bit more. But to end on her is kind of like, I thought she was more of like a side character. But I don't know. Like the emotion was supposed to be between
I think
Connor and his mother.
I think you can't end on a side character though. I think the problem is that the thing with her and her dad was mentioned once. It doesn't feel like it was set up enough because it would still work in the sense that, okay, because of Connor's choice, she's able to do this, so it would still kind of work in sort of by proxy in a way. But I don't think that this idea of like her dad and getting to see him again and getting to tell him the good news was set up enough where it felt like a big thing to us. It just kind of felt like just a bit of a limp finish, basically.
Maybe underdeveloped.
Yeah. And they set stuff up with Garrett as well, where he's like going to be the new boss in town, working for the cartel, seemingly. So that's stuff for the TV show, I guess. But yes, I was talking about a limp finisher. All I could think of was that thing from What We Do in the Shadows, that scene where she's talking about the name Jeff.
Jeff.
And she's like, it's like a weak ejaculation, just Jeff.
Jeff Sakla. I actually was thinking of that because I think the bad guy's name in this is like something similar. It's Sutcliffe or something, but it reminds me of Jeff Sakla from What We Do in the Shadows.
Yeah, Sutcliffe. Yeah.
Gregor. That's a better watch. Just watch that instead of this.
Yeah, watch the What We Do in the Shadows TV show. It's got Matt Berry in it. Matt Berry's great. Oh dear. He's blown it. He hasn't even mentioned the turtlenecks. I can't do a Matt Berry voice, but just know that's really funny in Matt Berry's voice. Yeah, I mean that's basically the movie. I think it suffers from not thinking bigger. I think.
Yeah.
It feels really. Like I the sad part is I feel the passion. I feel that they really cared about this and they wanted to make this feel special, and I just don't think it goes far enough with the emotion. It doesn't go far enough with the ideas, and I do think that they had to at the very least do a better job of like dressing up the actors, if not just outright casting other people that actually fit in the roles.
Yeah, I think I would like a more focused film. This one kind of, I don't know, like. There's a lot in there that they could just do a movie about instead. That I would like a bit more. Like, I'm not into like the training montage scenes or the, I don't know, like it kind of comes off as goofy, or maybe it comes off like an episode of Arrow.
But that's the other thing though, is that we spend so much time with him saying he's got potential, and we have the training montages. And I don't really feel like he ever really uses his powers that much after that, where, he zaps the van once.
He zaps some things, yeah.
But it never feels like he has like a big moment. The closest we get is when they kill the henchman. Garrett like stabs him in the eye with like a penknife or something like that. And Connor like zaps the penknife with a lot of electricity and kind of like essentially there's a bolt of lightning through his head, and that looked pretty neat. But it never really, because all these other movies where they have to train and become the best version of what they can be and all that, it usually plays into how they win at the end of the movie. And in this movie, I don't think that he needed the training to do what he does at the end. Like, he just, it's just a simple little zap. It's not like a big deal. It doesn't feel like all the time we spent on like building him up as this big, like, he's a powerful, super powered person. He's level 7.
12.
Yeah, he's level 12 electric. It never felt like it actually mattered for the third act of the film, and it feels kind of underdeveloped. Like. They threw a lot of ideas in this movie, and none of the ideas for the most part are bad. And everything kind of comes together in a fairly serviceable manner, but it doesn't actually feel like it pays off. Like I say, the most interesting stuff is the emotional climax and the moral choice that he has to make. It's just a shame that we don't care enough about the character that he's making it about to actually give it the weight that it should, or even care about him enough, because he is kind of bland.
A little. It's just a little pretty boy Maze Runner guy.
You keep coming back to Maze. I don't know if you said Maze Runner mostly in the first take of that opening, or if it was.
I mean, I don't know. I've never seen any of those movies, or like, Divergent,
or
maybe even like Hunger Games. It feels a little that style.
I never watched this show, but for some reason I'm getting Mutant X vibes.
Don't know what that is.
It was a sci-fi show from the early 2000s, late 90s, which I think was actually sued by Marvel for being too X-Men like.
Yeah, Mutant and X.
I think it was called Mutant X. It was something like that though. I'm sure X was in the title, which is really like ballsy. Like you got a show about
with
mutants.
The word mutant.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm not surprised Marvel took legal action. It was a bit in the close side, but
yeah.
Hey ho, I guess that basically wraps up the movie. I don't have a whole lot more to add. It's kind of bland, but it's serviceable. But I wouldn't rush out to see it. Like
there's potential, yeah.
It's kind of painfully just okay, and sometimes that's the worst. Because at least if it was terrible, I could sit here and get passionate, and be like, "Oh, it's terrible! How dare they do this? And how dare they do that? Oh, F this movie!" But it's not that. It's
Mm-mm.
There's potential. I could see a TV show potentially being good, but it'd have to be with good writing and have to,
I'm not gonna watch it, but it's not because of this movie. It's just because it's still a show that I'm just not interested in these types of shows.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I get the feeling that it'd probably be a CW style show, and because of that, I would probably opt out of it. Maybe try episode 1 for pilot review sake, and that'd be it. But even then, it'd be kind of weird because like. You have to see the movie before you see the TV show, or the TV show work on its own.
Yeah.
Because it's not like they're rebooting it. It's not like the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where they wanted to correct what the movie messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it in there.
It's true. I mean, I have seen that movie, and it is not good. The TV show, from what I've seen, most of it is much better than the movie, although it has some duds, if I remember.
Oh, because Star Trek doesn't have duds.
It doesn't. You've watched it, you know.
It does have duds. I know you watch our reviews. You've not been paying attention if you don't think there's duds.
Name one.
Spock's brain.
Which one?
Spock's brain.
That one was great. Spock has his brain stolen.
Okay.
I mean, if you're going to steal a brain, you would take the smartest person on the Enterprise. Code
of honor. You can't defend that one, and you know it.
Yeah, that one's like a 9.
Tara. You're a great co-host. You really are. But sometimes you're full of absolute shit. This is one of those moments.
All I heard was that I'm a great co-host. Thank you.
I don't think Buffy the Vampire Slayer has an episode as bad as Code of Honor.
There's something called like Bad Eggs. That was pretty bad.
Bad Eggs is a really bad episode. It is better than Code of Honor. Do you know why? Because it's not blatantly racist the entire time.
Okay, it's like moderately racist.
Not only is it moderately religious and sexist as well. In fact, now I'm thinking about it, there was a whole like stealing a bride aspect to it as well. There was a lot of sexism in there too, right? Not only that, the conclusion to that episode was a fight around a jungle gym.
Yeah, between two women. When do you ever see that? There's like a cool bird-like weapon with, points on it. That each one of those points will kill somebody instantly. It's intense. It was like, it's like watching Running Man or something. It was very Running Man, yeah.
Running Man, so much
it's a 9.
It's not a 9. Your 10-point scale is absolutely broken when it comes to Star Trek. Absolutely broken. Just say, the episode wasn't that good. It's a 9. There's 2 types of Star Trek episodes. There's 9s and 10s, and most of them are 10s. Every so often there's a disappointing 9.
Yeah, there's a couple of 9s, but most of them are 10s, and there's a few 11s.
This is absolute poppycock. Tara, what are you rating Code 8? Oh, by the way, before I even answer that question, I should just say the title of the movie comes from the fact that when the armored truck that's been attacked for the drug, that's referred to as a Code 8 by the police. That is where the title of the movie comes from.
I don't really like the title.
Nah.
Like, I could see they thought it sounded kind of cool and catchy, but you only hear it. You hear it twice. You hear it when the bank's being robbed. It's a Code 8. I think a Code 8 means it's a not mutant, but superpower. I say mutant because this is so X-Men.
Yeah,
but
I feel like
a superhuman.
I feel like to get this title over, they should have done something at the start where, you know, at the start of Close Encounters, it comes up saying a close encounter of the first kind is this, a second kind is this. They should have said what the first 7 are, and then said Code 8 is superpowered attack. You know, person in a crime or something like that.
I don't know. I'm getting Rotor vibes from that.
Okay, maybe 8's too high a number for it, but I mean, if it was only like 4, Code 4, then you could have done that.
Check out our Rotor review on patreon.com/MalfuzzTV.
Code 1, Stephen Amell's taking off his shirt. Code 2. He did that a lot in Arrow. It was a running gag.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll check the show out.
Yeah, he was topless a lot of the time. As were a lot of the male cast members. It's a very beefcake show, to be honest. There's a lot of beefcake going on. But hey, so what's your rating? What are you rating Code 8? And I'm going to take a stab in the dark and say you can't say it's a Code 8 out of 10.
No. I think this movie wants to be a bunch of other movies. I think it wants to be Chronicle. It wants to be The Town. It wants to be X-Men. And it wants to be like a modern day drama but it's it kind of whiffs on a lot of things, and although there is potential here, there is some seeds of something that could be good. So if they do make a TV show or miniseries, whatever it's going to be, there is potential there. If you like these actors, I think it could be okay. But for the most part, it's just not a movie for me. But it's not bad. It wasn't like a horrible watch. I like the action scenes, but it's just not for me. I'm going to give it a 5.5.
See, I think you were undermining your own score there a little bit, but said it's just not for you. I don't think it is that at all. Like, maybe it isn't for you, but I don't think any of the problems you're talking about, like everything we've talked about justifies that score, regardless of whether or not you feel that you're sick of like superpowered people.
Yeah, maybe.
No, be confident about yourself. Well, be confident in your score.
It's a 5.5.
It's a 5.5.
Level 5.5.
We should start doing that. We're talking about 2001. That's a level 10. 2001 was actually a level 10. Level 10 movie.
Yeah, that's why we're never going to review it.
Day the Earth Stood Still is a level 9. We're going to review it 2001. That's happening.
All right, one day.
You know what's happening. Yeah, my rating for this, I would give it like, I mean, 5.5 is kind of around the ballpark of what I was thinking. Yeah, I think it's good enough to have a 6. It's got a couple of, no, the level thing annoyed me enough. I'm going to say a straight 5.
Okay.
That's half a point right there.
Yeah, that's our fast color level, so it's about on par.
It kind of is, and I think they both suffer from feeling like they're just too small versus their ideas. Yeah. What was the other movie we did? There was another movie, one of the newer movies we did last year, which is funny, we're in the second year of the show now, by the way, because it's 2020. We can say we did this last year. But there was definitely a movie like this of a similar budget. Maybe I don't think it was Fast Color, but there was definitely something where we said it was a lot of other movies. Like it wanted to be all these other things. It seems to be a problem with sci-fi recently, where a lot of the sci-fi that comes out is just clearly just an amalgamation of all these different other sci-fi movies that people like.
I can't recall.
There's even good examples of that. I remember when I went to see Oblivion, which I enjoy Oblivion, partly because the music's so good.
Me too.
but like it is just a combination of like 5 other movies. Like you can literally piece it together and say this is from 2001, this is from Portal 2. That's not a movie, but like because there's
the villain definitely was.
There's a moment at the start of that movie where it's like, you know, Tom Cruise and we'll do this at some point.
It's just Gladders, yeah.
But Tom Cruise and like the women that he's working with, because they've got like an outpost on Earth, and like, hey, it's just like 3 days till we get to go back to the colony. And I leaned over to whoever I was with at the time and just went, the cake is a lie.
Yeah.
It's like I knew immediately. There's no way this isn't like a lie. Oh dear. Which, and in fact, yeah, it's also Moon. It's trying to do Moon too. So
yeah, definitely.
Anyway, that is Cody, and we can wrap up before we get to the bonus section. We talk about Mystery Science Theater by telling you to let us know what you think of the movie in the comments below. You can like and subscribe, all that stuff. You can get us on the Twitters at sorry, I was going to say the Screams Podcaster, at the Ace Podcast. And you can, of course, support us by rating the podcast on Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars. More people will find us that way. You can share us out on social media. And you can also send us questions or thoughts via email, mftvquestions@gmail.com, if you would like to send us questions. Maybe we'll start answering questions in the show occasionally. You know, if people send us some questions in. So you can do that, mftvquestions@gmail.com. Just put in the subject bar that it's for the Ace, because obviously all the different shows emails go to the same address. And obviously we mentioned Patreon earlier, where you can support us financially, so there you go. Tara, would you like to promote another Male Fuzz TV show? Or TV show, you know what I mean, a Male Fuzz TV show. I was saying show. TV is part of her name, not a TV show. No, you know what I mean.
Sure. I think people should check out the Star Trek reviews, since those are coming back up. But I always sort of promote that one. So if you like science fiction, we also are reviewing the original series for the Twilight Zone. You can follow along each episode with us and watch it along with us and see if they hold up.
Yeah, we're just a few episodes into season 2 by the time this goes up, I think. So go and check that out. All right. Well, with that said, then we have a final treat for you. We predicted rightly that would be a slightly shorter movie discussion than we sometimes have. So we have a Mystery Science Theater. We got together. We watched Mystery Science Theater 3000 this week. We watched The Final Sacrifice, which is a Canadian export.
Much like me.
A lot of Canadian jokes early on. In fact, one of my favorite, because basically there's a lot of Canadian jokes in the first like 20 minutes, and it comes back to the guys, and they're doing one of the skits back out in the Satellite of Love, and basically Crow and Mike are just going, they're so pathetic, Canadians, they're the worst. And in walks Tom Self, goes, hey guys, what are you doing? Don't be nasty to Canadians.
He's dressed as a Mountie, Canadian Mountie.
Don't be mad at Canadians. And eventually, no, look, it's alright, Tom, it's okay, you can just let it out a little bit, get into the groove of it and make fun of Canadians. And Tom just starts yelling about wanting to bomb Canada and just decimate the country, and it's like, whoa, too far, Tom, too far.
Yeah, there's a lot of Canadian jokes. Luckily, Canadians are, we got a good sense of humor, and we know America is just jealous. It's just their insecurity showing.
Yeah. So this is a movie where a little kid finds a map which looks like it was literally just like the set person drew it on a bit of paper on the day, just quickly doodled a little thing, and there's like an army of it's actually, you know what, you'll get none of this what I'm about to say, because obviously you don't care about wrestling, but this team of villains in this movie are basically the Dark Order from current AEW, and it was making me like I was just chuckling to myself, because basically it's a tag team that I've got all these guys that come out in like they're not just balaclavas, they're like more like black Mexican wrestling masks, but like they come out topless with these masks on, and they sort of like they're we all refer to them as their gimps. They're there to be the henchmen, and all I could think about as I'm watching this movie are these stupid Dark Order gimps. But anyway, so they're chasing the kid because they want the map. And the kid runs into the hero of the movie, and let me see if I get this name right. Zap Russell Blower.
Rousdower. How could you forget? He's our Canadian prince.
Rousdower. Zap Rousdower.
Zap Rousdower. He's a beer drinking, Canadian tuxedo wearing, truck driving fool.
My favorite character was probably the villains. The guy in the suit with the really sort of slick back hair, who's got a really over the top performance the entire time. And the best joke they give for him is when he walks in the house when they're searching for the kid, and one of them just calls him Garth Vader, which I thought was really funny.
Canadian villain Garth Vader. My favorite thing is probably the running joke they have of the opening is a scene where a guy is being chased down by this cult and he gets murdered.
Yeah,
and then the credits roll. And then at the very end of the credits, in the same font, it just says 7 years later.
Yeah.
It's like 7 years after the credits?
Yeah, that was really funny. And then every time it like fades to black and comes up again, it says, and 7 years later. 7 years later.
It's such an odd placement for that.
Yeah, it was the same with when the villain, like, sort of, we see the villain again with these gimps. He's one of the jokes was, that was a long 7 years. Yeah, got a lot of rest. Like, yeah. Because I think it's meant to be the guy who dies in the opening. I think that's meant to be the kid's dad.
That's Troy's father.
Yes, yeah. Troy. Of course, Troy. How could I forget Troy?
The Larry Zonka looking guy with the mustache. Yeah.
Yes.
Troy's the kid that we're following.
Yes, Tara had to explain to me who Larry Zonka was.
Larry Zonka, yeah, he's a football coach. He's big, I guess, in sports.
Yes, but yes.
I had to look up who he was when I watched the episode originally, because, like, man, they're making a lot of Larry Zonka jokes. I should know who this guy is.
So the kid runs into Zap Rousdower. Is that right?
Zap Rousdower.
That Rousdower. Okay, Rousdower.
Yeah, now you sound like Troy.
Rousdower. And he's got the hockey hair, which I never occurred to me at first, but as soon as they called it hockey hair, I'm like, oh yeah, that is like the hockey haircut.
Yeah, that's what it's always called. Yeah. Because all the hockey players have it.
And he's always drinking booze. In fact, because if I have a complaint about this movie or / episode, whatever way you want to put this, is that I think the jokes are really good for the first 30-40 minutes, and then there's like a lull for a little while. It's like once they're in the woods and they meet up with this old guy who happens to just know a bunch of stuff about this cult for no reason.
Yeah, literally everybody Troy runs into is connected to the cult somehow in the past, or his father.
But there's like a lull, but there's a joke that kind of I wasn't literally falling asleep, but I was almost like, okay, it's not been funny in a little while now. And there's like literally a joke that happens as Rousdower wakes up from a nightmare. He's got a nightmare of, like, you know, because he was like involved, because this is the thing, you think he just ran into this random guy, but then later on we find out he used to be in the cult. And he's got the tattoo, and he's got a history. So yeah, like you say, everyone he runs into is part of this cult, or was a part of the cult, or knows about the cult. But he's having this like weird nightmare flashback of like having the symbol burned into his arm and all the rest of it. And he wakes up like in a cold sweat, sitting up, and then one of the guys yells out, "Oh, is the booze like not been served anymore?" Or something like that. Like he makes a joke about the booze not being available. And it really woke me up. I was kind of like I hadn't laughed in a while at that point, and that joke really woke me up.
Or he and Zap Rousdower and Troy are both like staring at the sunrise. And he kind of takes a swig of beer and says, "I wonder if there's beer on the sun."
That was good.
Man loves his Molson.
Yeah, so a couple of other little details about the movie. One is that Rousdower's truck, he apparently lives in it because he's got like his washing, his clothes and stuff, like on like lines in the back of his pickup truck to dry. So they're just always there when he's driving, like drying. I have to.
It's easy when you only have 2 sets of clothing, I guess.
I have to imagine though, if you're driving about, that they're just going to get dirty because of all the,
He has a lot of trash back there.
But when you're driving around, like your windscreen gets dirty because eventually there's the build up of shit in the air. And
yeah. So that's true.
So I feel like his boxers are going to get dirty.
Nice. That Canada air, it's a lot cleaner.
That Canada Air, eh?
Canada Air. Actually, that's the name of our planes. Or no, that's Air Canada.
So I have this question. Apparently, I don't know what the director, what he's got about shots of feet get into vehicles. But for some reason, every time someone's getting... So the first time we see someone get into a truck, it's actually Rosedower before we've seen him for the first time, right? So it's kind of like mysterious, who is this person, right? We just see the shot of the foot get into the car and the door, shutting. But for some reason, even in later scenes, when it's one of the Gimps or it's Rosedower again or whoever, even if we have like the scene before, like it's not the start of the scene, like we've already seen the character in the scene, but for some reason when it goes to them getting into the car or the truck, it cuts to this same shot of like just the feet as they're going into the car or truck. For some reason, the director...
He's just got the Tarantino condition.
This is really specific, though. This is like if Tarantino's had a foot fetish, but the foot fetish was only in this one particular situation. It's only when the feet are like, standing next to cake.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't know.
I think he was just really excited that he found like an artsy way to film this, and so he used it a lot.
Yeah, they were also really proud of the shot of the camera right next to the wheel as the car was driving.
Yes.
There was a lot of that.
Yeah.
A lot of that.
Yeah. So this is one of the cult favorites for Mystery Science Theater. Rosedower has become a real symbol. Apparently the guy gets a lot of fan mail. Yeah.
Oh, I bet he still regrets making this movie. He's like, every year he's like, oh my god.
No regrets. Never.
He has regrets.
What did you think of the episode?
Oh, the episode was good. The episode was funny. Like I said, it was a bit long in the middle, but it picked back up at the end. A lot of good running gags. As for the movie itself, I was impressed that there was actually some miniatures at the end, because they kept talking about how there was this mystical city, and there's some really bad sets at one point where the kid fell in a cave and he was just trying to like piece together the Indiana Jones puzzle in the cave, and it was just like so dull looking. But at the end of the movie, like they literally had like a city rise out of the ground, and it looked bad, don't get me wrong, it was cheap as shit looking, but I was impressed they even tried to do it.
We don't really get that kind of stuff from these types of movies.
I was impressed they even tried. A lot of good gags from the making the robots in between the bits, which was nice. Like I say, that bit with the Canada insults was probably the best. But even later on, they all had the hockey hair. They all had wigs on. That was pretty funny.
Except for Mike, because he already had it from a period of like 1985 to 82 or something.
Yes, but he ended up with the Bob Ross hair because the old man they meet in the cabin is got Bob Ross beard and hair.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah, this one is it's up there for me. It's not one that I've rewatched a whole lot, but I do enjoy all the Canada digs, and the song is great. And it's one of the more watchable movies too. Sometimes you get movies that you just don't want to watch again, even with Mike and the bots helping you out. Like they're pretty rough, but it's a pretty good one. And Zap Rosedower is such a treasure.
Zap Rosedower, and I will forget his last name again about 30 seconds after we're done, so I'm warning you right now.
That's all right. I get it.
Yes, Zap Rosedower. All right, well, that pretty much wraps us up then. That is the Atomic Cinema Experiment, and I believe this is episode 43. So
what are we doing next time?
What we're doing next time? I think it's Jurassic Park 3 we're doing next time, I want to say.
I think so too.
I think it's Jurassic Park 3. This is kind of exciting. I'll just double
I guess
check.
maybe we should pick another Mystery Science Theater too, so when we watch.
Sure.
We probably won't have it with Jurassic Park 3, but when we watch another one, I should have it ready in case everybody else wants to watch one too.
Do you know, it's so weird that Jurassic Park 3, even though it's a really simple B movie, I'm looking at that and going, yeah, we'll easily go 90 minutes on that.
Probably.
I don't know how. How do we do it for movies like that? But we do.
Yeah, I think the next Mystery Science Theater we should watch is Phantom Planet. Let's do a sci-fi.
Okay, Phantom Planet.
Same season as Final Sacrifice, but we almost watched that one instead. So let's do Phantom Planet.
Phantom Planet. Sounds like
Yes.
the Canadian knockoff to Captain Planet.
Well, just you wait.
Oh dear. Alright, so that's been the Atomic Cinema Experiment. Thank you very much. We did all the plugging before the Mystery Science Theater bit, so I don't need to do it all again. Just I'll thank you once again for watching or listening. We love you loads. Keep watching science fiction movies. What are you shaking your head at?
I was yawning.
Alright. I thought I said something stupid. I'm like, that's what I always say.
Nope, you're good.
Okay. Well, thank you once again for watching or listening. Keep watching science fiction films. And computer. I can't think of how to say this in a Canadian way. Computer, add salsa, eh?
Yum, yum.